Welcome to this, the first Data Lab Dialogues podcast in 2023. We are, as you can maybe hear, on Rådhuspladsen in Copenhagen, facing the beautiful square here, actually opposite my old place where I used to work in Politiken. Nice to get a new view of Rådhuspladsen finally. With me today, I have Karl Bergström, as usual.
Hello, Thomas. Nice to be here.
Enterprise
2023.
Architect. Yes, exactly. And my name, by the way, is Thomas Madsen. I'm Enterprise Architect at SAP and head of the Data Lab in the Experience Center in Copenhagen. With us today, we have Kristoffer from Opentext. Welcome, Kristoffer.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you, Karl.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting us to your fantastic office here in the middle of Copenhagen.
Very welcome. I guess we can say that this is probably one of the best offices in Copenhagen.
This is definitely our best recording spot we have ever had. So you don't need to look at everything if you have something better.
Yeah, so I'm sure this will become also the best podcast ever.
Yep.
As they say in World Cups, football World Cups, this is the best World Cup ever. So this will be the best podcast ever, obviously. Before we get started, Kristoffer, could you just put a few words on what is content management?
I absolutely can. So content management is a big thing, right? So if we look at the information that is being produced in the world today and managed in the world today, out of the 100% information mass there is, about 20% of the information is what you call structured information. That's the information that's stored in databases, in the columns and rows. It's the data. 80% of the information is unstructured information. It's content. It's documents, it's videos, it's presentations, it's PDF files, invoices, delivery notes, and so on. All of that content needs to be managed.
Okay.
This is where you need a content management application, document management application, as well as an archive. Yeah. This is what Opentext does every day. And we've been doing it for about 25 years.
Ah, great. So we are in the right place to get information on content management. I'm hoping we can dig deeper into this, but before we get to that part, Kristoffer, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? Where are you from?
I certainly can. So yes, well, I'm Kristoffer. Yes. I'm based in Copenhagen at Opentext in our office in Copenhagen. My role at Opentext is in Presales. I run the Presales team of the Enterprise Content Services division of Opentext in the Nordics. And in the Nordics, Opentext is about 25, 30 experts in pre-sales, sales, marketing, and our professional services who help customers every day solving their content management and information management challenges. I've been in the business for about 20 years, a little bit more than 20 years, considered a dinosaur in the industry. So I've been around the block.
We're three of us here, lovely.
3 dinosaurs, we're not extinct yet. And well, I've been trying to help customers solving their content management needs for about 2 decades.
Okay, so all of this time it's been content management?
It's been content management and archiving for about 20 years. In the SAP context, over the past 6 to 10 years, a non-SAP former.
Yeah, okay. So managing documents, it's a discipline that has been there forever, I guess.
It has. I mean, many organizations and also private individuals, I mean, we manage documents on an everyday basis. Right? I mean, we're very used to working on the C drive and saving documents on My Documents. Some companies, they have common drives, the F drive, the C drive. Of course, that doesn't bring a lot of governance. It doesn't bring a lot of security. It doesn't bring very good collaboration capabilities when you need to collaborate on content internally in the organization or externally with your business stakeholders. So companies are going from, and have been going for many years, going from the local drives to content management applications to help facilitate that external collaboration, internal collaboration, as well as, of course, providing uniform governance, compliance on that content. So it's a discipline that's been around for many years.
Yeah.
And Opentext as a company, together with SAP, you have a long history, don't you?
We do. I think the history it's more than 25 years of a very, very successful partnership. I think the partnership is to be considered rather unique in the marketplace because it's been such a long partnership and it's been such a unique partnership. You have thousands of partners at SAP, of course. I think it's more than 30,000 partners.
I wouldn't know, but
And
could be.
out of those 30,000 partners, Opentext has been handpicked by you, your organization, as being what's called a solution extension partner.
Okay.
Which basically means that we engineer software, we develop software and solutions for SAP customers that SAP customers can acquire from you as if it was SAP product. And it can also be supported by the normal SAP support channels that customers are accustomed to. So for the customer, it can be business as usual, acquiring and using Opentext software. They don't need to source with another vendor. They can just source with SAP.
Yeah. That is convenient, of course. But what is it then? I mean, I'm sure there are many out there that does similar things, and I know SAP is also doing, content management in itself. Yes. What is it that makes Opentext stand out?
Well, our value proposition is managing content regardless of which business application the content is being used by.
Okay, yeah.
So what we typically say is we try to help customers manage content in context of the business application they're working in. Of course, we would like that everything takes place inside the SAP application.
Yes.
Who wouldn't? Yeah.
But the reality is that the customers might use applications like SharePoint, Teams, maybe some legacy applications that are non-SAP, maybe some CRM applications that might be SAP, CRM, C4C in some business areas, but other CRM applications in other areas. And maybe even using bespoke or homegrown applications that the customers built from the ground up. Most of these applications, they run on data as well as content. And most of these applications are not used by a single set of people in a single uniform business process. The business process is usually spanning many different departments, many different applications.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take an example of a cross-application process. A lead turns into an opportunity, which is registered in the CRM application. That opportunity needs to have a quote. That quote needs to be sent to the customer. It's a document. Right? There is some communication backwards and forwards in email. That needs to be archived as well. Now that quote becomes an order. That sales order needs to be processed. Now after the order, we have a customer. We have a project. How do we do a handover from opportunity to project? Well, a lot of documents are being generated in that context as well.
For sure.
Now when the project has been finalized and the customer has gone live, then once in a while, there might be a service request, a ticket, a case. So the customer needs to log a case. Maybe the case agent needs to look at the history of what has been delivered, what has been sold, what has the communication been like. Now, from a data point of view, that can be integrated. From a document point of view, just imagine how difficult it is to fetch the documents if they're stored on your local C drive.
Or in all of these different applications.
Exactly. If they're stored in different applications, it's very difficult.
That makes a lot of sense. So you have a one-stop shop for document, let's say, search or content search.
Absolutely, One-stop shop for documents, or a unified repository, as you could call it as well.
And on that, this mega trend of customer now moving to the cloud, do you see a difference, the back-end system being Workday, Salesforce, S4HANA, public cloud, is that shrinking your business, or is it growing, or is it any complications with this?
That's a good question. The move to cloud, I mean, Opentext as a classic company, like SAP is a classic company, we've been moving to the cloud for quite a number of years. Back in 2019, just a fun fact, Opentext managed more data persistently than Amazon Web Services managed data persistently. And we did that in our cloud. So we've been a cloud company for many, many years.
And sorry, your cloud, are you running it yourself, or are you using a hyperscaler to provide the infrastructure also, or how does that work?
Good question again. So it depends.
I didn't
I'm in
want to
pre-sales. Right? I'm in pre-sales, so everything depends. It really depends on what the customer needs.
Okay. Yeah. So
We can run the software on-premise. If the customer wants to run it themselves on-premise, we can deliver that, a license. We can also deliver cloud service in our own private managed cloud, or in any hyperscaler of choice the customer wants. Typically, that would be either Amazon, it would be Google, or it would be Azure, Microsoft Azure. And the customer can also run it themselves if they want. So we, just as you, provide the flexibility that customers need in order to be successful in their business.
And are you seeing any trends there? I mean, what are the, let's say, general preference by clients nowadays?
Most clients have a cloud-first strategy. So most customers, they lead with cloud, and it's only in very exceptional circumstances that it is not something that is being run in the cloud. Some customers might still have an apprehension towards putting what I call their Coca-Cola recipe into the cloud. And that's a perceived apprehension that might not be based on fact, because large cloud vendors like SAP, like Opentext, like the hyperscalers, we know security. We know security very well. But there might be some apprehension in putting that very sensitive content in.
There could also be, I mean, law, different types of regulations that prevent you from storing the data there.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm wondering, I mean, so I get that data, if it originates in multiple different systems, it spans multiple, let's say, applications, and it's an end-to-end process. It might make sense to have all the documents stored one place. But let's say SAP is, it's end-to-end. So why not just use it? What is it? Why is document or content management so hard? And why would you go to Opentext to get that problem solved?
Document management has been around for many, many years. And organizations have always managed to handle the conundrum of managing documents. We've always found a way to manage documents, even though those documents are residing in silos. But the hidden cost of managing documents in silos, even within different modules of SAP or different SAP applications, it's a hidden cost that is not necessarily shown to the leadership, because the hidden cost is quite a lot about you spending time searching for that contract that Thomas was actually working on 3 years ago. Right? You might not know each other, but you know the contract exists. You know the contract exists. So it's difficult to access content, and people spend quite a lot of their working time just searching for information that has already been provided. So that's it's hard to position the document management capabilities unless we actually talk about the business value, the business efficiencies that a content management application can bring. Because it's not rocket science, but it's hard for customers to move their current work processes to a new process. That's why Opentext, we work with the concept of content in context. Enabling employees not to step out of their business process to work with documents. They sit in the SAP transaction they're used to working with. They click a button, and up comes their documents. Right? Just as they would normally do in SAP, but those documents, they're managed by Opentext. And they're accessible by other leading applications or other modules in SAP as well.
I'm wondering, do you add then, let's say, context or searchable information to the documents? I mean, when SAP store a document, the raw document, I guess we associate it to a particular document, I mean, a data document inside SAP that has a certain set of fields which is, relevant for this particular transaction. But in the document itself, there might be more information.
Exactly, yes. In that document, there might be some sensitive personal information that is not necessarily documented in the fields in SAP, in the metadata in SAP. Now, when the documents are managed by Opentext, we can make sure that the fields in SAP, the metadata, is synchronized into the Opentext application. And we can make sure that the document contents, the contents inside the document, the Word document, the PDF file and so on, that is identifiable. It's made searchable as well.
Okay. So you can come from the other angle. Instead of going from the SAP world to find it, you can also come from the Opentext side and search and find document from another angle.
You can. I mean, most SAP users, they love SAP, of course, right? So they would use SAP as their primary application, primary UI to access documents in context of the transaction they're in. Other business users, they might access the documents through a web-based application or their mobile app or a business application that mashes up data from different sources. For example, in an asset management scenario.
And changing a little bit. So now we have the data stored somewhere. But then you also, I know, because I've been working with Opentext in different customer cases, then you also provide process support for bringing these documents in, connecting them together, approving, so enriching the processes. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely, yes. So it's a process-oriented world, and documents are not just documents. Documents are always part of a process. Some of those processes can be automated almost to a level of 100%. Imagine a process of an incoming invoice that needs to be paid or needs to be posted. If that invoice is a paper invoice, which it still is in many, many countries, or it's a fully digital invoice, which it is in our region, it still needs to go through many manual process unless you have some automation software that we have together with you. So that incoming invoice, if we know that there's a purchase order associated with it, if the thresholds for the payment are low enough, we can actually automate that entire invoice to receipt, to posting, to payment in a single transaction. Maybe only with one, or if you have processes for 4i approval, just 2 approvals. And then, of course, with exception handling, all of those processes are also as automated as possible. And if you're using machine learning capabilities, if you desire to use machine learning, the system can continuously learn. So information we capture and we need to process, we get better and better at processing this information, the more we work with the information for automation purposes.
And here there can be some remarkable numbers of what the percentage of being able to automate can, I guess, improve a lot. So
it can improve immensely.
Yeah.
I don't want to say 100% because, of course, that. But we see some amazing numbers from customers going from zero automation to even automating 80 to 90, maybe 95% of some of the incoming documents that needs to be processed.
And just a reflection on that from SAP engaging with customers, this is often from the customer side an important area. Here they can save a lot of money. So this could pay for the party of moving to S4 is that here is a lot of value to efficiency.
And the value of efficiency is it's not just about the speed of efficiency that we automate the process. It's also about all of those hidden efficiencies, such as we're actually paying our invoices on time now. We might be able to get early payment discounts that we've negotiated with some vendors, right? And we're not exposing ourselves to paying late fines because we have an automated process or a process that's as automated as possible. So there are many hidden benefits in implementing such systems.
Do these features have a product name as such, or is it bespoke solutions where you use tools at Opentext to create this? Or?
These are solutions that have been on the market for many years.
Okay.
The solution, the automation solution, we call vendor invoice management for SAP solutions, or SAP invoice management by Opentext, and that's a solution. It's a very well-known solution in the marketplace. We have thousands of joint customers running this solution in all parts of the world, ranging from fairly small privately owned companies. I believe you're meeting one of those tomorrow in Jutland. Yeah. To some very, very large global leaders in their space as well. And they're using it both for invoice processing, but also processing of other types of documents like incoming sales orders, delivery notes, goods receipts, and so on.
Yeah. And on that note, because invoice management you are world famous for, and it comes in there. But where would be the use case for sales orders or delivery? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
The use case is very, very similar to the invoice processing. You get documents that needs to be processed inside SAP. They are sent to you through different channels. It could be fully digital through EDI, XML. It could also be semi-digital via an email with attached PDF files or Excel spreadsheets. This information, it needs to be processed inside the SAP process. How do you capture that information? Yeah. So we have joint solutions to capture this information, do OCR and field recognition on it, optimize the content, validate that it's actually the right information we're processing, and then start the process inside SAP with predefined workflows that can be used out of the box. But of course, some customers, they need to tweak the processes according to their process. So of course it can be tailored, it can be configured, and you can also run custom code as well if needed. And all of
and you would do that both in SAP, I guess, but also in Opentext.
It's actually SAP. So the automation software, it's SAP. It's running inside of SAP. It's SAP code that Opentext has developed as a product.
Okay.
So it's an add-on on top of the S4 stack.
Exactly. An add-on, a clip-on. It runs inside SAP.
Got it. Yeah. But then, of course, as part of this process, these documents are then stored in the content management system. And why would I want to store it there? I know search and all that. We discussed it, but ultimately, a document is stored somewhere on a disk. Is your technology any different from my own, which would be to basically have a file system ready to store my documents?
Well, SAP can actually store documents external to the SAP application, also as part of an archiving run through the interface archive link. Right. Fun fact: Opentext has helped SAP way back in history to develop the archiving capabilities of SAP. The best practice is that you want to archive your documents. Right? You want to externalize the documents and put them on an external archive. That can be a file share if you want, but it should be a proper archive, as you say.
And what is a proper archive?
Well, a proper archive is something that is not necessarily tied to a specific storage device, something that can support both storing documents on-premise, for some types of documents maybe, but also in different cloud providers that has interfaces and support for both S3 and Blob Store on Azure and many other storage providers, because of course the world is not a uniform world where every single customer stores documents on the same storage device. So what we can help with is to abstract the storage layer with a software-based archive that can write to virtually any storage device. On top of that, we can also implement the retention policies that have already been defined in SAP. So as part of the archiving, we get the information from the SAP application on how long do we need to store the document once it hits the archive.
And then you take control, or is it still the SAP system that tells you, please delete it now? Or how would
it can be the SAP system that tells us to delete the document, yes, in certain cases. Other times, we could take control and we can do the automated deletion and send the posting back to SAP.
Got it. Okay, so information lifecycle management.
Exactly. Yes. And speaking of SAP lifecycle management, speaking of information lifecycle management, many of your customers run ILM as well. And our archive fully supports ILM, of course. It's a given.
And then I guess from a cloud perspective, you taking away the complexity underneath. I mean, it is a service that you deliver.
Exactly. Yes.
And the customer don't need to bother about the archive and the file share, and this will stay for years. And will it work when you need it?
Exactly. So storing the documents on your file server, you can do that fine. That's okay. But of course, putting your documents in a cloud-based archiving solution, which is a software as a service solution, of course, means that you don't need to maintain your file server. You don't need to maintain that connectivity to the file server, and you don't need to do any upgrades to the file server. All of that is handled by the experts, right? It's a service that you subscribe to.
Yeah.
Exactly, and my just little trivial personal problem with now switching for a PC, those I have in the cloud, I'm immediately having them on the new PC. Yeah. The old one, it's some great benefits. And if you scale that to enterprise, of course, that is a much bigger.
Speaking of archiving, I mean, more and more nowadays, when I buy something in a shop, often we, of course, buy it online, but I'm an on-premise kind of guy, so I like also to go to shops to buy stuff. And these people in the shop, they more and more often tell me to take a photo of the receipt, because then you got it and you can lose the receipt after that. I didn't know that actually, but that's really archiving. So I should have some sort of tool, actually, a private Opentext tool to organize all my invoices and receipts and what have you.
You certainly should have.
Yes. Is that possible?
Well, maybe we can figure something out.
Yeah, okay.
But on that, archiving, because we have talked about documents, but then we have data archiving as well.
Yes.
And coming from this transformation, moving to S4, archiving is one of those top prep activity that we propose to be done. Why is archiving important?
Well, I can give you an example. Some years ago, about 10 years ago, I bought a new house together with my lovely wife. So we had to move, and we'd been living in our house that we sold for a number of years. Were we going to take everything from the old house and move it to the new house? Well, fact was no, because we had stored a lot of things that made very good sense to us at the time, but we actually didn't want to move everything to our new house. So we did a lot of cleaning. So, of course, that cleaning meant that I had to go to the dump number of times. I had to delete a lot of my stuff. Right? I had to remove my stuff. And then I would move the stuff that I really needed. Right? Some of that stuff that I really needed, that I wanted to move, I actually put in an archive. I put it in storage. So I didn't want to have it at home.
Good thinking.
I have it in the storage room. Right? So fast forward to today and to your question. When you're in a legacy or your ECC environment and you're moving to S4, maybe to the cloud, you want to do data cleansing as well. You want to make sure that, of course, you only handle the information that is relevant to you. So that's the first step, data cleansing. Next step, you want to consider... By the way,
cleansing, is that something where Opentext can help you as well? Or?
It's actually not. No. It's actually not. But there are many other partners that actually can help with the data cleansing. You can do that.
Yeah. But there might be something there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So once you know exactly what it is that you want to keep, you need to figure out what is it I need to keep in my new application and what is it that's okay to archive. That's still available to me, at the touch of the fingerprint or the touch of the button. So you want to implement archiving, right? Yeah. If you're not already archiving today. Yeah. And that archiving we can help you with. Yeah. SAP has archiving support for God knows how many business objects that can be archive objects. And all of that archiving process, it's something that takes place inside the SAP application. It's something you set up in SAP, the residency time. You configure SAP, and you tell SAP, this information set, I want to archive. Once you've done that, we can receive that archive data in our archive, and then you can migrate only the information that you really need to the shiny new S4. The archived information that's residing in Opentext, it's still available to the S4 application.
Regardless that's not just documents, but also objects.
Also the objects, the archived data, yes.
Yeah.
So to say so the delivery, the billing document, yes. That Absolutely. Has now been moved because it was 8 years old. It's out on the archive. But still accessible.
Still accessible, yes.
So is ILM required then for this to happen, or not necessarily?
It's actually not required. No. Some customers, they want ILM for their business reasons, but it's not a requirement from our archiving solutions to have ILM as a prerequisite.
Okay.
And for the nerdy techies, now we're talking SARA, Archive Link, that functionality of SAP in connection with the Opentext.
Yes. Good old SARA and good old Archive.
Yes, rock solid. Really super good. Done it. Love it. Yeah. Yes. And also, I mean, when you moved from your old house to the new house, at least in Sweden, we have the new houses don't have so much lockers like the old house style, and because they are new, they are modern. S/4HANA is also it's in-memory database, it's high value database, but there we argue that do this because there are some costs that you can save if you reduce the database size.
Absolutely. And of course you want to be cost conscious.
Yeah.
You don't want to store everything in memory. No. Well, maybe you do if money is no object.
No.
But for most enterprises, money is an object, especially in these times. So you want to be considering archiving when you're moving and when you have moved.
But I mean, it's not just money. It's also when you have a smaller footprint, then you're also more nimble. You're more agile. Yeah. You are less, let's say, if the bad thing happens and you need to fix things, then there are less data to fix, actually. Yes. Yeah. So it's always a good idea to sort of only keep what is really needed.
And I guess a lot of customers who are in a business critical, they have this downtime window. I mean, if they are a 24/7 company, if it's a 10 terabyte or 1 terabyte system.
Yeah. I mean, you absolutely want to be able to prove that you can meet your RPO and your RTO, right? Your recovery time objective and your recovery point objective, right? Yeah. And meet your backup windows as well.
Yeah. Good, but one abbreviation comes to mind, GDPR. And in all those documents that are in this content management system, there will be some confidential information, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, how is Opentext in any way good at sort of protecting me from violating my clients' rights?
I certainly hope so. Opentext has been in the business of managing unstructured information, documents, content for many, many years. Yeah. And many of our customers, they use us for very, very sensitive information management. Yeah. Where information must be stored securely, it must be handled securely according to process, according to policy, different types of policy, internal policy or external policy. And we've been helping customers all around the world doing this for many, many years. So when GDPR came in effect in May 2018, for Opentext and our Opentext customers, I wouldn't say it was just another check in the box or walk in the park, but they've been used to managing their information according to external regulations as well. So with GDPR coming in, we've seen an onset of customers wanting to manage their personal and sensitive information in Opentext now, which is also why we see that our partnership with your colleagues in the HR space, in SuccessFactors, have accelerated immensely over the past 4 years. Because in HR contexts, you have HR data and you have documents related to HR, right? Employee contracts, hopefully not warning letters and so on, right? Performance improvement plans and so on. Very sensitive information in documents that needs to be stored in a very controlled and governed way. And we have solutions to support that as well, which is just the content management application configured in an HR context.
Is there, I mean, and now I'm kind of, this is not my field at all, but is there a difference in the retention requirements, retention policies on the data and the documents, or will they always follow each other?
Oh, I'm not an HR expert either.
No, but then more general. So when you have a sales relationship with a client, I mean, if you are no longer, let's say, as an example, I mean, you have sold something, then after 1 year or whatever the rule is, I mean, you are obliged actually to delete all the information pertaining to this client if he wishes you to do so. But on the other hand, the sales order is part of your financials. So the sales order itself, of course, you can retain somehow, right? So there are some information that needs to go away, but others not.
Absolutely, yeah.
And is that something you see? I mean, how would I do that in an Opentext, if at all?
I mean, you would of course integrate the processes of SAP with the processes of Opentext, and we would always act behind SAP, and we can act on triggers coming from SAP. Yeah. So if there are specific events taking place in the SAP application that will be sent to Opentext, we can act on that. For example, delete this certain document or the sets of documents based on the event that's taking place in SAP.
So SAP in the retention perspective is in control, and that's where, this sales order, or this customer sales order needs to be deleted. That triggers the activity, or if those documents resides on Opentext.
Absolutely.
And one thing that comes to mind is, I mean, you have a document, perhaps you don't need to delete the entire document, but you can sort of put black things on top of certain parts like they do, you know, in defense and what have you. I guess that's not possible, or
well, you know,
is that a very manual process?
That's actually
masking somehow in documents, right?
Yes, I mean the technical term for masking is redaction, and that's absolutely possible. And it can be a manual process, and the technology is now coming to a point where it can also be kind of automated. So let's take a document that you need to put the black boxes on.
Yeah.
And there are, let's say, 60 places in a document where you have credit card information, and you have the same credit card number, and you have the social security number located 10 places in that document. Now, a manual process would be you would have to search for each an individual number, and then do the redaction. We can automate that, so you can we can actually put in rules saying, for this expression or for this specific number, search for everything inside the document or the sets of documents and put the black boxes on.
That is super nice.
It's a very nice solution for privacy.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yes. Learn something new.
I was thinking about this. It is a topic. I'm working sometimes with the public sector and the Cloud Act of hyperscalers. We need to anonymize data so that you can't access it, and this privacy is relevant in that case as well.
Absolutely, and it's relevant both in our part of the world with the EU, where you have a right to your data. You have the right to see what data an organization is processing and storing about me. But you also have a right of information, right? So you can go to a public sector organization in the Freedom of Information Act. Say, what type of information do you have pertaining to this specific case of, building this statue on Rådhuspladsen, as an example, right? And some of that information, it needs to be redacted and made anonymous.
I've been thinking about one thing, the popular word data lake. Would you see yourself as a data lake, or is that something different in your world?
That I wouldn't see our main solutions as the data lake, but I would see our solutions as on-ramps to the data lake that can provide data and documents to an enterprise data lake. Absolutely.
I mean, in this context, I see data lake as a bad word, really, because their information is, just dumped and potentially very disorganized. You can potentially use the cost savings that there are in data lakes, but use it in a way that is secure and that it's accessible, the data.
Yes, and we can make the unstructured information structured.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because you know about the metadata, the relevant data in the documents, and then you use maybe the lake, but you are a layer of that gives meaning to that swamp.
Yeah. But let's talk money a little bit. Do you see? I mean, the cost per document, so to speak, so per byte in a document. Where is it the lowest? Is it if you run it in your own house with Opentext on top, or is it if you place it somewhere else, or is it perhaps in Opentext?
It really depends. This is the great pre-sales answer again.
Yeah.
What we see, I mean, historically, the cost of running infrastructure has historically been rather cheap, right? Storage costs have been rather cheap. However, what we see now with the hyperscalers and economies of scale, I see a switch. I see a switch beginning to happen that you can really take advantage of economies of scale now in managing your data and your documents in a hyperscaler environment, in a cloud service offered by you and us. You see that there's a huge benefit in that, not just on the cost of the hyperscaler and the service that we provide, but also the fact that we can help customers remove those tedious tasks of managing the infrastructure, updating the database, right? Patching the application, right? I mean, doing the upgrades, right? All of that soft cost, you take it away. So the business case now in moving information to the cloud, it's better than ever.
Yeah, okay. You said database, but I guess in Opentext, I mean, I'm sure there is a database somewhere, but the database is not the important thing, right? I guess the documents are stored somehow on a file system, right?
Yes.
But you manage it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the documents are stored on some file system somewhere, right? But for the application, for the end user, we'll never know on which file system exactly the file is stored. That's handled by the software.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Right. This has been interesting. Time is flying. I mean, yeah. So we have had a long relationship, SAP and Opentext. So is there any way that SAP could do some things better to service Opentext solutions in a better way, or do you see this as a perfect match? Or
We have a long legacy, right? We have more than 20, 25 years of a very, very good partnership. And I think we're doing a super good job, globally, regionally, and locally as well. Can we do a better job? Absolutely. Right? We love being with you. Right? We love enabling you and your colleagues in the value and the benefits of Opentext. Right? And we see that when we engage towards the better benefit for the customer, sweet music happens. Right? It's like a symphony. Right? So the closer we work together towards the customer, with the customer, the better chances are that the customer will have great outcomes. So we should just continue doing that.
Right. So it's more a shout out for improved collaboration if it is than actual changes in our new solutions. I mean, the solutions are there. We just need to articulate it and help the customer understand the value and of this combination.
Absolutely.
That's how I see it. I'm wondering, you mentioned a couple of use cases before we started out here. Is there a couple of use cases you'd like to highlight?
There's one that I find extremely interesting. Well, we're sitting across from this building, Dansk Industri, and we see a lot of logos on the facade. and just in Denmark, many of these logos, the C20 companies, are joint Opentext SAP customers. And if we look further on the Danish borders across the bridge in Sweden, Finland, Norway, we have many joint customers, ranging from rather small customers, a couple of hundred, maybe 500 employees, to the very, very large Swedish retailers, high-tech manufacturers, Finnish public sector, and global transportation companies in Denmark. And one of those is a company that's been on a podcast previously with you, Maersk, who's implementing a very, very large new SAP application for their finance and tax team. And Opentext is an integral part of this project as well, where invoices and in future other types of incoming documents will be processed, archived in Opentext, and also made accessible to maybe other business applications as well.
So the example we mentioned about invoice management, that is then the centerpiece in this solution.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I wouldn't call it the centerpiece.
Yeah, but in this context, it is. Okay. But a very important piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But this is, to be sure, a very, very large client and an important client for SAP, of course, but also for the Danish economy as a whole.
Absolutely.
But you also mentioned that there are smaller companies. So is there any? I mean, I'm sure there is, but how big a problem should a client have with content to start engaging with Opentext? Is there sort of a bagatelgrænse, so to speak, or how do you see it?
It's a good question, and I wouldn't say that. I mean, in my 20+ year experience, I've worked with customers that are less than 50 employees, but they have requirements for document management and content management that are driven mostly by regulation, compliance, that warrants that they can't work with a file share. They can't work with a Microsoft SharePoint. They need proper enterprise grade.
To be in their business, they have to
be in business. They need this, right?
Yeah.
If they're, even if they're only a 50-employee company, right?
So the problem is if you are 50, then actually it becomes even more relevant, I see, because if you are only 50 people, then you need at least one of these 50. So that's 2% of the employees that needs to be really on top of this. Yeah. Yes. And I guess they are doing something else than document security, right? So
they might be, yeah. But of course, the world is also changing to, we talked about the cloud-first strategy earlier, and of course the projects, they can be dramatically reduced in size by deploying software as a service, multi-tenant content applications that still take care of the governance and the compliance capabilities that the customers need. Yeah. So you go from maybe rather lengthy cycles of implementation of months to weeks instead, because the service is just running.
Okay. Cool.
So we definitely can cater to lower end.
So when you offer software as a service, is it multi-tenant or do each client have their own, so to speak, instance or whatever? I don't know how you deploy your software, right? Or how does it work?
I'm laughing again, sorry, because I'm in pre-sales, right? And the answer depends.
Sure.
So it really depends on what is driving the customer need.
But both can be done. Yeah.
Both, right? So we can deploy multi-tenant, true SaaS applications. We can deploy private cloud for the customer specifically, single tenant, or the customer can also deploy in their own data center of cloud.
Yeah.
If they want. So it really depends.
Yeah. Okay, so whatever your issue with content, whatever your size, Opentext can help you out. Yeah.
And same goes for SAP. We are changing now.
Absolutely.
Big or small or medium. And that's, I guess, is a mature enterprise-ready software.
Absolutely.
That can cater for any kind of customers.
Great. That is a good note to finish off this episode of Data Lab Dialogues in this beautiful environment with Politiken Palace Hotel, Rådhuset, and also Industriens Hus behind us here. This was episode number 24 of Data Lab Dialogues. I'd like to thank Kristoffer from Opentext for joining us, or rather hosting us here in Rådhuspladsen.
But if someone would like to get in touch with Kristoffer,
True.
Would that be okay to share your LinkedIn, or how would you prefer?
More than welcome to share my LinkedIn profile, of course. And if there are any specific requests for contact, You guys, you have great networks, of course, and customers are always welcome to contact us.
And we know you now. We know you now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So thanks again, Kristoffer. This was very interesting. And for me, at least, I learned a lot about content management, a little bit on archiving as well, and a few new tips also. So I hope you guys did as well. Thank you for us, and see you next time.